Hello and welcome to the show. I have the pleasure of sitting down with Barbara Weaver Smith, who is the founder and CEO of The Whale Hunters. It's a global sales strategy firm known for helping organizations land large, complex accounts. And oftentimes we hear about that as the whales. She's got a professional background that spans higher education leadership, nonprofit executive roles, tons of global business consulting. She's still adapting and flexing and doing so much with her business now, which I think is so inspiring. And so, Barbara, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Rady. It's great to be here with you. We've known each other for many years now, so it's wonderful to be with you today.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Barbara, for the guests listening, when I met Barbara and just seeing that she's, continuing to adapt, and I feel like that's just like so powerful. The learnings that I got from her were they still stick with me, and so incredibly powerful to just dive into her content. And again, so much knowledge and so much inspiration to bring to the show. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to create Whale Hunters.
Well, I've had a very eclectic career. As you said, I started out in higher education. I was an English professor, if you can imagine that, and I was the dean of a college. And I left that. And then for 4 years, I was president and CEO of a not for profit organization called the Indiana Humanities Council. And my role there, I had two main roles. One was fundraising, which I had really started in my academic career.
Yeah.
Never thought I would do that. And so that's kind of the background of my sales interest in my sales career came from fundraising. And then we were a civic engagement organization. We worked statewide. So I had the opportunity to work with leaders of all the major philanthropic organizations, the museums and the universities and the libraries, and the Boys and Girls Club, things like that, all of those groups. And they wanted to do big things and they wanted to get together to do big things. And so I got really excited about and very good at facilitating diverse groups of people who wanted to accomplish something. And so that's what really got me into the concept of whale hunting. I had a partner, you probably know, with whom I wrote my first book about whale hunting. And so that's kind of how it got started. And it's been a wonderful metaphor. I've leaned into it for many years and it's exciting to people. It gives them a way to change kind of rapidly because it's based on this amazing story of how the Inuit people hunted whales centuries ago. So the metaphor works across modern business, and that's kind of where it came from.
That's amazing. And when you started to think about starting this, what were there any like doubts? Were there different
Oh,
things?
yeah. Lots of doubts. I mean, the idea of naming our company the Whale Hunters and, really leaning into that metaphor is scary. There have been times when we've been criticized for harming whales. I tell people, first I get a pedicure, then I go out in that boat with my harpoon. But so it's not always an easy thing to do. And business changes all the time. It's changing rapidly and dramatically these days. So you
Absolutely.
have to be flexible. But I think that was the scariest thing for me. And of course, any business owner, we've had scary times,
Yeah.
when the economy turns around or things change kind of overnight. You
Wow.
learn to roll with those punches.
What do you attribute to being able to flex through that? Was there an initial, emotion, feeling that happens first and you kind of go back to a certain example of when you've gotten out of it?
Yeah, I'm not into failure. I'm very, very determined. I'm pretty resilient. I'm the oldest of 7 daughters, so I'm used
Wow.
to being bossy. So I have never really suffered from a big lack of confidence. I
Wow.
got that from my parents. I'm very grateful for that. And so I'm pretty determined to work through things. I don't hide from them.
That's amazing. Is there a time where like you were saying with the business where an opportunity, a deal fell through or just even personal setback and like what
Oh,
was
yeah. Well, the business, I've had 2 partners, both partnerships failed. I bought out my first partner, and that was scary because the company wasn't that old, so I didn't really know how that was gonna go. I was just and my husband, Larry, he's my business partner, although he doesn't really work in the business, but he's always really encouraged me, and he's always one for taking the risk if that's what it requires.
Oh,
So we've had major problems. Early on in the business, we took on a lot of real estate, and that turned out to be a disaster. Many years of having to pay for office space and stuff, and, things like that. You make decisions and they turn out not to be the right ones, but
oh,
you
wow.
have to push through it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of also support people that believe in
Absolutely,
you too.
yeah, yeah. I was part of a mastermind group with other women, 8 women who were all business sales related business owners, and that was remarkable for me. That went on for years and years. I still have one member from that group who's my accountability partner, and we get together twice a month to just talk through what we're doing and celebrate
Oh my
our
gosh,
successes or failures, whatever, so,
that's amazing.
that's
How did you find that? Because I feel like a lot of people are looking for that, including myself. I've found some groups, but sometimes it's hard to find them.
Yeah, well, this came through a women's organization. You probably have heard of or may know Jill Conrath, who started this group called that became Women's Sales Pros. And that's how I got involved. And that's where, I really found these other women. And that
Amazing.
group has become women's sales experts. I was one of the founders of that and first chairperson. So I still have that same group of women and many new women around me.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. And then how long was that friendship? The one that you still have as an accountability partner?
Oh my goodness, it's probably been 16, 17 years.
I was like, I definitely talk to a lot of people about, finding groups, communities that support you. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
um, what for you? What has been maybe like a biggest obstacle in your career? Like, do you have any? Is there anything? What are some of the challenges that you found, just even as a female founder, too?
Well, my whole career, being a woman makes your career different. And
Mhm.
early in my career, it was very difficult to be a woman, to even get the opportunities to get in the door. That
Right.
has changed so much. But I think, we still feel that there are obstacles that we have to overcome. So I think it made me very determined. Not everybody takes You have to just not let that bother you, I guess. But, early in my career, that was very important to me. I really felt like I was a trailblazer of sorts. It was very soon after the first affirmative action laws were passed
Mhm.
that I was able to move into higher education. Making that move was very challenging. It was
Wow.
very challenging to be there. It was very challenging to get in the door. It
Okay.
was very challenging to get paid properly.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what was challenging? Like, what specific things happened?
Well, it was still kind of unusual for women to be in higher education,
Yeah.
and so, we had to have, I think, so much more experience and so much, meet higher requirements to get in. And
Mm,
I always was one that I wanted to be on the inside, making change from the inside. I didn't wanna be outside being an agitator. I'm much more of a getting along person. So I wanted to be on the inside. So I was very determined to do
wow.
that. But there were really strange things. Like one year, I was at a small college for quite a few years. One year the president announced that only the men would get raises that year because they couldn't afford to give everybody a raise and they were the breadwinners. I mean,
Uh,
really, literally things that you would not believe
that's
that
wild.
were that you couldn't really challenge years ago. So of course I left there, but I think the course of my career has been leaving things that weren't satisfactory to me. That's probably where it shows up most. I just
Yeah,
moved on.
that's amazing. It just seems like you had, like, an incredible level of confidence and self-belief that if something's not right, you're out. If something is right, you dive in.
Yeah, I think maybe that's one of the things of being an oldest child in a big family. But yeah, I do that. I've had to do that. That's really it's so much different now. That's really changed a lot.
That's
But
amazing.
that was a lot of that influenced the course of my career. I did not set out to be a business owner. I did not set out to be a salesperson.
That's amazing. That's and I feel like a lot of us too, it's what we focus on, what we think we're going to do, it never ends up happening anyway. One of the things I want to ask you to just be successful, be able to do this in the long game. Like what I see a lot
Mhm.
of my clients, people I'm connected to, my network, they're high performers or high
Or
achievers. I was reading this book by Dan Sullivan, The Gap and the Gain, and I love it because high achievers, we live in the
he
gap.
was my coach for many years.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I love the concept because I could feel it living in the
Yeah,
gap, and I think it also turns into a lot of stress and burnout. So,
yeah.
what are some ways that maybe your personal coaching with him helped you to, like, avoid stress and burnout?
Oh, he is the best for entrepreneurs. I highly recommend that program. I couldn't recommend it more highly. It's very much about focus. It's very much about managing your time,
Amazing.
taking time off where you don't think about work. Dan talks about 3 kinds of days: focus days and buffer days and free days. So that helped me really think about how I'm using my time. He talks about we have met Neapolitan days. They're vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, and we should have vanilla days and chocolate days and strawberry days. And so that has, I think, of all the lessons I learned from Dan Sullivan, that's the one that stands out to me the most. How to manage your time so that you don't burn out, and how to take the long view and how to think big.
I love that.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the weeds. They feel
Yes.
like they have to do everything because they know it the most, especially if they're founders. And I work with founders all the time, entrepreneurs and founders who mostly I work with companies that are really doing over 50 million a
Okay.
year, other than working with solopreneurs over here. But they've come a long way in their business, but they still struggle with those issues.
Yeah, that's what I find, and it's funny you said with working with Dan Sullivan because my executive coach also is going through his program and said
Yeah.
that's my next step.
Yeah. Uh,
It's that burnout of, like, I guess everyone responding with you ask how you're doing and everyone responds with busy, and it's as if they're
yeah,
busy, but they're not busy doing the right things.
for sure. And you have to, if you're the leader, whatever kind of organization you're leading, even if you're a solopreneur like I am now, I haven't always been, but I am at this point in my life, you can't do it all. You have to be very clear about what you can delegate and then make sure that you're good at delegating so you get the results that you want, and so that you can continue to see the big picture. You are responsible for all your employees and for the success of your business. The other thing is it's really important to have good advisors. Both of us have coaches. I am a coach and I have had coaches and advisors and allies all along the way, and that's made a huge difference to me.
And especially just like you said, I think founders and business owners definitely need it. I have multiple coaches in my life all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
but even just like some leaders too, because they have nowhere else to go to really
Yeah, for
guide
sure.
it, have to have all the answers, and it comes across like that. And since you're speaking about delegation, everyone struggles with it. How did you learn to let go of control? And what advice would you give to those leaders that think that they have to do it, continue to do their own thing and not
Well, I think, first of all, you have to understand that that is a path to destruction, personal destruction and the destruction of your business. And
mm,
so it's a process of, I always think of it as what's the next move? Who's the next person that you need to hire?
mm,
Um, what's the next move you need to make? And it used to be hiring, now it's outsourcing. What part am I going to outsource? And Dan Sullivan is big on focusing on your innate ability, your biggest ability, what you do best,
yeah.
and outsourcing everything else, and starting from, take the thing that you're worst at and outsource that and then move on from there until you're really doing your core things that you're really, really good at. For me, in whale hunting, a lot of founders are still the rainmaker for their company, and they can't capture the value of it. They can't make their exit strategy, their long-term strategy, unless they learn to build the sales team who can do that, because that's not the thing for the founder to be doing
Wow.
forever. So sometimes that's the last thing they give up or want to give up. And they have a huge leadership role for sales, but not doing the sales themselves. So that's one of the big things that I come up with. And I think there are lots of other parts of the business that various entrepreneurs need to learn to give up. And it's the hardest thing, I think.
Yeah. What are some of those
They're
things that
really, really good at.
So what are some of those things, Barbara? What do you see that people are not letting go? Maybe they're not even aware that they need to let go of.
It's different for different people. A lot of founders, it's sales, or it might be the financial side that they're still trying to run that themselves. Or if you're a solopreneur, when are you going to outsource the bookkeeping? It's
Yes.
different at different levels. I just, whatever it was that drew you or prompted you to found this business, that's often the part of it that you don't want to let go of. And
Yeah.
at some point, you have to have the big picture. Picture changes, but the things that you're responsible for, especially if you're scaling,
Yeah.
they get very different very fast.
Oh,
And
that sounds
so it really helps to have external advisors. Even if you have a board that
mm,
you're reporting to, it's helpful to have an advisory group that are all on your side and their role is to help you, or be in a mastermind group where everybody's doing that for each other. I think it's
it's
so important. That's why groups like Vistage are so popular because founders, entrepreneurs, EO is another one. I mean, you have to be engage with other people who are going through the same things you're going through, I think, in
uh,
order to figure it out.
that's
But
yeah,
to
that's
understand that that's the pattern, I mean, that's so common. It's not anything unusual. Everybody goes through that, having to let go and having to be the one who has the big picture of the business in
mm,
their mind and in their vision
yeah.
over the long term and when and where to pivot when everything changes around you.
That's powerful. But and then what for the, let's say, not a founder, let's say
Sure.
managers, directors,
Yeah.
executives, what would you suggest for them if they don't find that internally in some of these big companies?
Yeah, I think they need to find their own focus. Again, what are you there for? What are you responsible for? And how can you resist all these distractions? There's so many meetings, there's so
Ab
many reports. You have to maintain your focus. Be very good at reporting on your progress. Be very good at helping your boss understand, here's what I'm about, here's what we're doing, here's what you asked me to deliver, and
mm,
these are the ways I can deliver it. Here's where I need your help. Here's where you need to let me do it.
yeah,
Help stop the distractions.
yes,
I think that's what gets to most people, especially if they're in corporate, but even if they're entrepreneurs, there's so many distractions, so many push and pulls. You have to get really, really focused what you're doing. What are you responsible for? And be responsible for it.
my clients I'm working with now, especially my one-on-ones, I'm literally trying to help them realize that focus is going to be like the superpower with all the
Yeah.
noise and
Yeah.
information coming at you. If you can master that, you're like
Mhm.
unstoppable.
There's a new book out on that. My friend Steven Rosen just wrote a book
Okay.
called Focus. It's
Focus.
primarily for sales professionals, but
Super.
anybody who's in business, it's a great book.
I'm gonna write that one down, focus book. That's great, yeah. It's just and I think the more we feed into it, the more social media, the more short videos, and the more people are feeding it. I'm
Mm.
not saying ADHD is not a thing, but I think some of us feel like we have it because
Oh,
our
yeah,
brains
absolutely. Yeah.
are wired for less attention.
Yeah, and social media is part of it, but virtual meetings, it's so easy for them to pop up. It's so easy for a leader to get everybody to a meeting, and you can just die a thousand deaths in meetings that aren't going anywhere. So you have to be really get really sure of yourself so that
Mm,
you can withstand the distractions. And because if you let yourself go to that in with the idea that that's what people really want, it's not what they really want. It's the only thing they know how to do. They really want you to deliver what you've promised to deliver.
yeah.
So whether you're the leader, one of the things I have found over the years in whale hunting is that it won't work if the senior leader hands it off. It's the kind of thing that you have to be in charge of it. So all kinds of things that people do, bring in consultants or programs that they want to have in their company. If you're the leader, you need to see it through as a leader and kind of insist that it happens, make it happen, support it at every
Mm,
level, or those kinds of things don't work. And that's definitely true of whale hunting. Where
yeah.
it works is where you have a strong leader who wants it to work and is willing to make sure it works.
Oh,
When they
wow.
hand it off, it just kind of fades away.
Oh, tell me just a little bit more about what you're doing with your organization, just for the audience so they know, like, what is whale hunting?
Well, whale hunting is designed for mostly mid-market companies and also for entrepreneurs to grow your company fast by learning how to make bigger deals to bigger companies. And
Mm.
so it's moving up market and getting your whole organization ready for that because not only do you have to sell it, you have to deliver it and satisfy the demands of more sophisticated customers. So
Mm.
it's a whole company kind of thing. It's not just the sales team. So I always work with the cross-functional team, people at different levels. All of the functions of the organization need to be committed that that's the way we're going to grow our business, at least for this period of time.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a lot of fun. It's exciting for a company. I'm always working with successful companies. It's not a turnaround thing. It's
Yep.
when you need to get to the next level. Most of my leaders, their company's stuck at a plateau, a really good plateau, but they don't want to stay there. Many of them are PE firms, or they have boards that are very aggressive about growth. So
Mm.
they're under a lot of pressure to deliver. So I know your audience understands that because that's the kind of people who are attracted
Yes.
to people that you intend to attract.
Yes.
So they're in high pressure situations.
That's wonderful. Going back to, like, the stress, the burnout, the delegation,
Yeah.
right? I think it all feeds into what we were also mentioning with what Dan Sullivan says too. How have you take me through how you have work life? I don't really think there's work life balance. I think there's integration. I think there's seasons.
Mhm,
I'm in one that's very busy now and I can't turn off all the time, but I have my times and know when to do it.
mhm.
But how has that looked for you, like, throughout your career? Do you feel like you've mastered it? Just tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I feel like I've probably 80% mastered it by now. The
Okay.
hardest thing was when I was raising children.
Uh,
It's very difficult. I did my master's and doctoral work after I was married and had young children. And so that was very challenging because I was working full time at the same time. And as they were growing and, as my career was advancing, my children were growing up. And so it's really challenging you have to have some kind of balance there. And that's hard in terms of time.
mm,
But again, if you're thinking of your highest priority, if you have children, your highest priority is to do your best for them.
yeah,
So that helps you make certain kinds of decisions. And I don't have those restrictions now. I'm very fortunate. My
yeah,
husband is really supportive. He does a lot of things that make it possible for me to continue to work since that's what I like to do.
that's
And he's been retired for a long time.
wow.
So, I have pretty much free reign now, but still, I have a life outside of work.
Yep.
I have friends, I have a husband, I still have children, grandchildren, great grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So, I have lots of things that I like to do and times I want to spend with my family and my friends. So I have to make those decisions still. Like I'm in an active adult community surrounded by clubs and things to do. Every minute of every day, there's something here to do. So I have to be really careful about what I choose to give my time to because I'm very focused on still developing this company.
That's amazing. I'm even when you say that, I'm thinking how much I've tried to adapt to have more balance, integration, and then I look at my parents are amazing. My dad's like, I think he's 81 or 82, and they have like more of a social life than I do. I like laugh, but I'm like, all right, I need a little bit more of that. They're out walking, meeting up with friends,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, that's goals right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So have you just pivoted over time depending on your kid's
Oh,
age?
yeah. Yeah. My business has pivoted, and I mean, we've all been through these, we lived through the pandemic.
Yes.
We had businesses that were very challenging during the pandemic, just to name one
Yep.
thing. And there have been, economic downturns where business is very hard. Although I believe that small business, entrepreneurial business, that's the time that you have a real advantage
Mm,
because big companies can't pivot like we can.
it's true. Mhm.
The best they can do usually is cut everybody's budget by 20%, but
Yes.
entrepreneurs don't ever have to do that. You can be much more creative. And during the pandemic, a lot of companies grew. They were founded and they grew tremendously because people found what were the needs then. And look at how builders changed, putting offices in every home that they built just because people started working from home. So all
Amazing.
kinds of things change and you need to be that person who's looking around, looking ahead to see what's coming and what's the
Mm,
best way for us to pivot now.
that's so true. What are some things that you do to just because I find it incredibly inspiring. You're flexing. You said you're doing like you have an AI, I think an AI bot now, coach.
I do, yeah, yeah.
What what do you attribute to that like flexibility and just agility too?
Well, I'm very curious and I like to be on top of things. So I spend time paying attention to what's going on. That's part of your role when you're the leader.
Yeah.
When you're the owner, it's yours to protect or to kill, whatever.
Yeah.
So I like to be on top of things. I'm a huge adopter of AI. I was early into the clone business, having a clone. Barbara AI is my clone, and that clone, she knows everything that I know about whale hunting, about my business, and she can remember it a lot faster than I can. So,
Incredible, right?
she operates really well as a large account sales coach, and people
Wow.
really get a lot of information that way. So and that's a way that I can spread influence and spread myself
Yeah.
over time because that's a kind of a substitute, not a permanent substitute, but a lot of people can use Barbara AI and get answers to questions that they wouldn't have the opportunity to ask me.
So true. Really
Mhm.
cool. Very like inspiring. But you said curiosity too, and I do feel like many of the most successful people are constantly curious. I don't know if you're a big I'm a huge reader. I'm always reading like 5 books at a time.
Kind of what I do, yeah. Fortunately, I'm a fast reader.
So that continuous learning, I think that's
Mhm.
that's so incredibly important. What are some of the habits or that you have in your day to day that you'd attribute to less burnout, focus, all of the things? Like for me, I started meditation 2 years ago. That's a big one for me. But
I think that's wonderful. I think the main thing I do for myself is working out. I have a trainer. I do that pretty religiously, do weight training. And other than that, I'm not the great one to talk about having the best habits. I don't have a lot of good habits. I lots of bad habits that I've had to get over.
that's so
It's like I don't have necessarily a pattern to my
okay.
day. I have a pattern to the very early part of my day, but it's just so that I don't forget to do things. But beyond
Yes.
that, I kind of do what I need to do for that day. I have certain things every day that I have to accomplish.
Mm,
And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but that's really how I plan my days. I start at my age now, I start working really early and I quit early because after daylight savings time starts, then I'm on Pacific time instead of mountain time, essentially. So there's 3 hours difference between me and the East Coast. And I have a lot of business, East Coast and Midwest. So I like to start really early. Like it's really early here now. It's 6:30 here.
oh my gosh. So what
And
time is really that you're starting?
oh, I start at 5:30.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I couldn't do that when I was younger, never, but now it just, my sleep habits have just changed, so I've
That's
become an early morning person, but then I can quit at 2 or 3, and I can read or I can go to the pool, or whatever
that's
I feel
great.
like doing until dinner time, so I try to get all my work done mostly by mid-afternoon.
Mid-afternoon, that's
Mm.
wonderful, that's wonderful. And that's important, I think it's just different seasons of life, right? You said when you have children,
Exactly, yeah, yeah,
change things up, but that's great. So you do focus on your sleep.
I do, yeah, that's very important.
I think that's
Yeah.
a really important habit that a lot of people are not doing, and
Yeah, and I've had lots of times in my life when I had trouble sleeping, when I had, if I was feeling stress or uncertainty, it's hard to sleep. But I
yes,
don't have I don't have that much anymore. I'm a
that's
pretty
great.
good sleeper.
That's great, that's so important. It just impacts
Mm.
everything. I feel like as leaders are it shows up in your energy and how
It
short.
does, yeah, it shows up in your long-term health for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. When you're setting goals, like meaningful
mm,
goals for
yeah.
your business or just your day to day, or how did you do that if it's less focused?
No, I still do now. I do that with my accountability partner. I have a very simple way to do that, to look at what are my long-term goals. They haven't changed for years, and my long-term goals have been pretty much the same. But what am I going to do next year? How am I going to focus my time? What has to happen next year? And so I'm not, now I'm in implementation of what I decided to do this year,
Okay.
and, then I'll start in the late fall, pretty much figuring out what I wanna do next year. My big goal professionally is I wanna be able to sell this company, so I'm trying to build recurring revenue so that it'll be more attractive to sell.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that and what exactly you're doing.
Well, that's why I've started the Whale Hunters Institute, which is a subscription program for solopreneurs who
Mm,
want to whale hunt, who want to get into the corporate world and do, bigger deals. It's very hard when you're solo. You have to spend a lot of time selling, and then you have to spend all this time preparing and delivering, and it gets very stressful. I know you have felt that many
I'm
times, I'm sure,
feeling it
in your
now.
job, whether you were working in an organization or now that you're more on your own and you're the one responsible. So it's just really important to figure out what your end game is. So my end game is I don't want to just close the doors. I want to either sell this company or hand it off to someone who would take advantage of it. So to do that, I have to take a lot of me out of it because
Mm,
for a long time it's been Barbara doing this, that, and the other thing. And so now it's more the whale hunters, and we have the clone, and we have this organization that is more self-sufficient that someone else could take over. It's not branded to me, it's branded to the whale hunters.
uh-huh.
And I'm building up, it's a subscription model, so there's recurring revenue that someone else could take advantage of, where if it's just Barbara Consulting,
Yeah.
there's no intrinsic value to anyone else.
Yeah. Wow. That's super interesting.
Sure.
What for I guess since you're on the topic of like whale hunters and scaling, how do you make that decision? Is there a way that you make that decision? Like that's a selfish question for me. I'm personally trying to find out if I scale, how I scale, what does it look like?
Yeah. I think it depends on where do you want your business to grow? When you're my age, what do you wanna have? Do you wanna still be working? Do you wanna have something you can sell? Do you wanna bring somebody else on board who would take it over? And how do you wanna spend your time? Do you wanna run a bigger organization, or do you wanna make your small organization more powerful
Yeah.
and figure out how to make more money with that organization? So you might want to have more people that are doing the things that you do, or you might decide that you want to build a more vertical organization where you have lots of people supporting you and it's mostly what you can do. There's a lot of different ways to go.
That's interesting. When you were talking about goals and your plan of how you set things, I'm a big believer in, and I know everyone's different. That's why I love these conversations
Mm,
because not everyone's the same way. I'm a big believer in like creating a vision for yourself that's, short term, long.
absolutely.
And I feel like when I ask that question, a lot of professionals, they live so much in the moment, in the now, in the stress,
Mhm.
that they don't think of what they want later. And then before you know it, time flies. What do you recommend for people like your clients, just the average person? And is that important? How should they do that?
I think it's very important, and I think if you're fortunate enough to own your own business, you are the one that gets to decide. You're the decider.
Yeah.
So for me, it's very important to be healthy.
Mm,
It's very important to spend time with my family.
yeah.
Those are the most important things. The older you get, the more important those things get.
So true.
And whether you achieve that depends a lot about how you spend your middle life years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I more and more people are focused on health, I think, today than they were when I was much younger. It
Yeah.
wasn't common. Like when I was raising my children, women weren't going to the gym. We never even dreamed of doing that. There weren't any gyms that wanted women, So
Wild, right?
that's something I had to learn to do much later in life because it wasn't there. But now young women can, the gym has a babysitter, and so you can go in and
Yeah.
work and leave your kids there and, bring them with you, things like that, so that you're going to be healthy and have energy to do things, but it's very much thinking about not just today, but thinking about the future and where do you want to be. Like, I have a lot of friends that travel a lot. I've pretty much done most of the traveling that I want to do. I still like to take vacations, but we take vacations to visit family because nobody lives here where
Uh,
we live. And so that's kind of how we spend our vacation time. but that's one of my decisions. I like working, so I don't have any need to do a lot of traveling per se, because I've done that.
Yeah.
Lots of people my age do very different things than I do, but it's
So
just
interesting.
what you decide, how you want to spend your time, what you want to do with your company.
Yeah.
Do you want at some point close the doors? Do you want to have employees to sell it to? Is that not important to you? Do you want to sell it early? A lot
Yeah.
of people exit early and then get into their second life, which was totally different than their work life.
It's so interesting. So
You
interesting.
can't you can't decide for someone else, they have to decide for themselves, but if you're watching this and you're not really thinking about what you're gonna do when you grow up, now's the time to start thinking about it and get some advisors or some colleagues around you, form a group to support each other,
Yeah.
and start thinking about those decisions.
I love that. I just believe
Mhm.
in having coaches, having people that support you because they're more
Abs
objective than your family. Like,
Yeah.
they'll give you the hard questions and things to think about.
Yes, my mastermind group, we all an advisory board for each other. And so we spend our time, sharing financials, working on strategic planning, sharing the ups and downs and giving and getting advice. And so that was hugely advantageous to me because they would ask me questions about my plan that I'd never thought about, and I said, "Oh no, back to that drawing board." But otherwise, you get these ideas on your own and you think you can carry them out, and then you discover, well, that was not the best of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you had an advisor, they would look at that and say, no, that's not going to work, and here's why.
That's so true. Finding someone that's potentially done it before and had experience doing that.
Exactly.
Doing
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
having that. I feel like many people are, again, living, like, in the now, and if they
Yeah,
created the vision, saw the life they wanted, they would make different decisions, like take care of their health
absolutely.
first because later in life it's gonna impact them.
I know for sure of the leaders of companies that I work with, the ones that are successful in their middle years, they're all in some kind of coaching group. They have a coach or they're in Vistage or they're in EO or some kind of local or even not local, virtual
Yeah.
support group of other business people who are experiencing what you're going through or they have had that experience and they have your best interests at heart. That's what it requires, that you're all interested in each other's success. And
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to handle a lot of stress and a lot of problems by routinely getting together with other people that are in the same boat but different from you.
Yeah, that's
They're not in your same business, so they have different perspectives, but 90% of every business is the same, maybe even 98%. There's 2% or 10% of difference, no more than that. The
yeah.
issues are the same.
I was talking to a friend that was one of my questions was when when you're in a different role of your, let's say you get promoted to a director, when you become a founder, do you need to find different types of people? And someone had given me advice and said, you might want to find other entrepreneurs because they understand it differently than people that are working
Right.
in business. I don't know if you
Yeah,
found that to be,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was other entrepreneurs in sales businesses that were my chief mastermind group that I learned the most from over the years. That and of course, in my earlier years, Dan Sullivan's program at all the levels of that I went through,
That's amazing.
because you're with a group of peers and you have an experienced coach who's taking you through a series of activities that are designed to help you think about what's important and how to act on it, how to make your next decision. So I think throughout your career, it's very valuable. If you don't have a group or you don't know of a group, start your own group. You have friends that
I
are
love
in
that
business.
too.
Just, or put it on LinkedIn. Ask people
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
wants to do this.
Yes. And there's so many more people that are out there, I feel, that want to help others or they're facing the same challenges.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I just think about, like, my coach Ian. I'm on my
Right.
second year with him and
Yeah.
he collapsed time for me. He built an amazing business. If I hire him, he's gonna help me do the same. And it's
Right.
true in just a mere 10 months.
Yeah.
but he's helping me avoid a lot of the pitfalls and mistakes that I could make.
That's absolutely the way to do it. I admire you.
It's so powerful. It's not optional. It's a need. It's a
Right.
need. What have you seen, like, some of the traits of the like you said, the successful, because you work with a lot of very successful
Mhm,
businesses. What are some traits or what are that you see those leaders doing really
mhm.
well that continue to make them successful?
They're focused, they're curious, they're a little bit afraid,
A little bit afraid of.
so that they look for guidance. They care deeply about the people who work for them. They're
Mhm.
very focused on, are their employees challenged? Are they happy? Are they being rewarded for what they do? Things like that. They're very focused on their customers in the same way. They have leadership qualities, and they're constantly learning that, that's why they bring in someone like me
Yeah.
and the whale hunting. It's a big change in your organization, and so you have to be ready to change, and you have to be the kind of leader that can inspire other people to
Mhm.
make these changes along with you. So they're focused and they're good communicators and they really care a lot. Most of them are very philanthropic too. They're engaged in their communities and their families. They're juggling lots of things.
Yeah, yeah. I can think of many in my circle like that.
Mhm,
Many. And then when you but they have, so they have, you feel like you said a couple times they deeply care about people.
mhm,
What advice would you give to, like, a leader that they may think they care about their people? What are some of the things you've seen them
mhm.
do that really shows that they care?
I think the really good ones have some kind of recognition system in place for their employees. They do their best to provide the right kind of benefits. They're very engaged. They might have events or even virtual events, to keep people engaged with the company. They listen.
Mhm.
They're not trying to force things. They're trying to get people on board with the vision of who we are, what we do, what our values are, where are we going here?
Yep.
Why are we the ones that are doing what we're doing?
So true. So true. I would assume you see them seeking out feedback a lot too if they're not getting.
Yeah, they do. They're usually, as I said, they're usually in some kind of group
Mm.
where they're giving advice and getting advice. And certainly, if they're bringing in the whale hunters, they probably have hired consultants or groups or individuals before to help them accomplish something. They know they can't necessarily do it all themselves, and so they're open to that. Usually, they're early adopters like me. You know,
Yep.
whatever's new, I want to know if it's something that will be helpful to me.
That's wonderful. I think it happened to me in my, like, maybe about almost 10 years ago when I was getting heavily involved in, like, doing CrossFit. I started
Mm,
to recognize how important community was because
mm,
you create
yeah,
these friendships when you coming, and then it keeps you accountable. And then I created my own community.
right.
How can companies take advantage of that? I feel like companies need people outside of just their peers, their colleagues, like community.
Yeah.
How can people find it, create more of it, and
Yeah,
what's the.
sometimes a company leader and the company are deliberately philanthropic. They have a cause that they support or they volunteer together to do something. I've been in several companies where that's the case. They are big on volunteering. They encourage their employees to volunteer or they do volunteer things together. The leaders are engaged in the community in various kinds of things. I learned that a little bit in the university, but mostly in the Humanities Council, being in the not-for-profit world,
Yeah.
and seeing how that worked and the relationships between for-profit businesses and not-for-profit businesses. I learned, to me at the time, the not-for-profit business model was too slow and it
Okay.
was very hard to move it.
Mhm.
It's very hard to I had a board of really smart people who were very successful business people, some were successful academics. As soon as they came to a board meeting, they had their not-for-profit hat on. They took their other hat off, and so things that they would do in their business, they never would think to do in a not-for-profit world. So
Ugh,
I thought, "Well, I can make money doing this, I can get paid a different way."
yeah.
So I set out to do that, not in an organization, and then it just evolved.
That's wonderful.
over a long time, but that's what I like to do. I like to bring order to messy things. Things that people wanna do that are hard and they wanna do them together, like whale hunting, you have to do that as a team. You can't go out as an individual and hunt a whale. It takes a group of people. They have to have roles. They have to have a way to resolve differences. They have to have a way to decide who does what. They have to value all the roles, which is hard sometimes with the salespeople have an elevated role and the other people resent it. So
Yes.
there's lots of tension, even in good companies, there's lots of push. I go into a lot of companies where people are pushing those whales off the beach. Thank you very much. I have enough to do without a new whale. So why are we doing this?
That's so true. Wow. What's next for you? Like, what's your next year, 5 years look like? 10 years? What's your vision?
Well, I'm very focused on building the Whale Hunters Institute, which I mentioned, which is an online learning environment and collaboration environment for solopreneurs who want to be whale hunters.
I love it.
And they want to move their business so that instead of whatever they do, instead of doing it for one person, they're doing it for a group or they're doing it for an organization where
Mhm.
they can get paid more, do bigger deals, and make more money with less stress
I
in
love
their life. So I'm very focused on that and continuing to build that out. As I told you, I also ghostwrite books, which is kind of my thing that I could do without leaving home.
It's amazing.
I still do some whale hunting engagements, bigger engagements where I go into a company and help them become whale hunters. So those are my primary things.
And then
I'm
what's
thinking at some point, my goal is at some point to sell the business.
to sell the business? Do you have a timeline of when you anticipate that to happen?
Probably within the next 3 to 5
Oh,
years.
wow. Amazing, amazing. And what's the best way, Barbara, for people to get in touch with you? I think your website, I would think, and email.
Yeah, it's easy. The Whale Hunters primarily act my social media activity is LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
exclusively. That's one of the things I do to pare away things that
Smart.
I do anymore. Just do LinkedIn and do it well. Well, that's how you got in touch with me through LinkedIn, and
LinkedIn
I'm
is
yeah.
amazing. Super. So thank you so much for your time, your insight, experience. It's so powerful for so many people. I know those that are the solopreneur, entrepreneur will value it, and even the mid-level leaders that I work with will also get so much from it. So thank you so much, Barbara.
Well, thank you for the invitation and for a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.